All right, guys. So, one thing we didn't get to do during the lecture was talk about the trial balances. And so I know I've answered several questions this week about the trial balance, what it is, how do you set one up, and really the biggest question I've gotten is, I've put all these accounts on my trial balance, but it's telling me they're in the wrong order. If you look in your book should be able to explain that for you. Hopefully you guys aren't just trying to power through the homework without looking at your textbooks. I wouldn't recommend that. To be honest with you, what we have done so far is pretty simple. It's going to get harder and harder and build on itself more and more as we move along in the course. So the textbook is going to be a great resource for you. Please, please, please use it as you're going. Have it open while you're doing the homework. And if you have questions, look through the textbook, try to get those questions answered. And, as always, if you can't figure it out, I'm more than happy to discuss those things with you and try to walk you through how to solve the homework issue problems that you're having. But I will say you need to be utilizing your textbook, utilizing the blue book if you purchased one, utilizing the PowerPoints that I'm posting for you guys. These are all resources for you to use. As I've explained to some students, there's a reason I don't have you guys do respondus for the quizzes and the practice exams, right? Like, I want you utilizing the resources you have. At the end of the day, if you are to become an accountant or whatever field you decide to go into, they're not going to force you to memorize and remember all these things. You're going to have references that you can use, resources that you can use to help you out. And so I want you to do that. Now, obviously, during the exam, I want to see what you know. So we're not going to be utilizing any resources in class during the exam, but during your quizzes, during your practice quizzes, during your homework, during the practice exams, all of those things, please, by all means, use the resources available to you, your notes, the blue book, the PowerPoints, the textbook. All of those things are useful sources of information on this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, really, that's pretty much all I wanted to say on that front is just use your textbooks. I know I know they're boring. I know it's boring to read a bunch of text about financial accounting. Believe me, I've read plenty of it. I know how incredibly boring it can be, but just do yourself a favor and get familiar with the concepts. It'll help you out. Now, I have told some students when they've asked me, my theory, my thought process on exams is this: they should not be as difficult as the homework and the quizzes. Okay, so your homework, your quizzes, those things are going to challenge you. I've set them up to be challenging, okay, because I want you using those resources. I want you having to go, oh gosh, okay, go back and reference this. Oh, that's how we did it. And then hopefully you start to develop a real understanding for how these things work. The exams, if you can get through the homework, if you can get through the quizzes reasonably well, you shouldn't have any issue with the exams, right? I mean, the homework typically you'll see is one big problem, right? And you got to solve it all. Well, on the exam, I may ask you just a simple question from that, like, do I need to debit cash to increase it? What happens in this transaction? How, if we increase cash, what has happened to our fundamental accounting equation? It's going to be simple questions like that, And like I said in the study guide, it's 50% conceptual questions. So do you know the concepts behind this? And it's going to be 50% computational questions. Can you derive your dividends from the numbers that we give you using your knowledge of the accounting equation? Things like that. So, all right. So anyways, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the trial balances because, like I said, I got off on a tangent there. Like I said, we didn't really get to discuss this in class because we missed basically a full week, which is really not a great thing to have happen, but it happened. Technically, I can't really, I offered the study session, which was completely optional, but I can't say, hey, you guys need to do this on those snow days. So I did discuss trial balances during that session, but I don't expect all of you to have attended that. And in fact, I know that you guys, most of you did not attend those study sessions. So, preparing a trial balance. So a helpful tool, a trial balance is basically a tool that helps you prepare your financial statements. Okay, so it's an in-between step, right? So we've got those first 3 steps, which involve journalizing and moving things, and then we got our 4th step, which involved posting the general ledger and all that. And now we've got another step, which is that trial balance, and this happens after the period, right? So after the period is done, we're going to prepare a trial balance. That trial balance is going to help us prepare our final financial statements. Okay, so essentially, what a trial balance is a list of all the active accounts and each account's debit or credit balance. So summarily, this is just a list of all your accounts that are currently active. And it's going to be a list of, does it hold a debit balance or does it hold a credit balance? What is the current balance in there? If I have cash, is my cash a debit balance? It should be. And what is that balance? Let's say $5,000. That'll be on your trial balance. Okay. So here's the big one. This is the one everybody asked me about. Not everybody, obviously, but I had a lot of questions about this. How do I list these accounts out? I've tried listing them like I do on the financial statements, and it didn't work. Well, that's not what we're doing here. Okay, we're going to do this in the order that they appear in our ledger. So we're going to go assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and expenses. I had one student tell me that they had learned in a previous class that, you list these out, debits first, credits second. That's not necessarily what we're doing here, right? We're listing these out in their account classifications. Okay, so assets, liabilities, equity, revenues, expenses. It just so happens that assets hold a normal debit balance and liabilities hold a normal credit balance and equity holds a normal credit balance. But you'll see when we get down to revenues and expenses, revenues, again, credit balances, but now all of a sudden your expenses hold a debit balance. And we also know that part of your equity holds a debit balance, right? Those dividends that you've paid, those hold a debit balance. So you're not necessarily listing these in debits first, credits second. You're listing these by account classification. Okay, so this is where it's useful to know, is dividends are a stockholder's equity account. Cash is an asset account. Accounts receivable is an asset account. Accounts payable is a liability account. This is where it's useful to know and understand why each of those are classified the way they are. Okay, that'll help you prepare this trial balance. So what the trial balance essentially does is it's going to tell us are our debits and credits equal? Do our debits match our credits? Do our debits equal our credits, right? It's not going to tell us that our transactions were recorded correctly. It's not going to tell us that we got all the balances correct. All it's going to do is tell us, hey, your debits match your credits, okay? It's not going to detect errors of analysis or amounts, right? So what that means is it's not going to tell us, did I get my cash amount wrong? All it's going to tell us is, in the end, even if that cash account is wrong, our debits match our credits. Okay, so this is just an example of a trial balance right here. Okay, so you got cash, accounts receivable, supplies, all assets, right? All debit balances. Then you've got accounts payable, your unearned revenue, your common, and those are going to be your liabilities, credit balances. Now we're moving into our equity, common stock. Again, that's a credit balance. Now we're moving into our revenue, service revenue, credit balance. But here you can see we're back to debit, salaries expense and rent expense, right? So, like I said earlier, we're not necessarily listing these debit first, credit second, because then you would expect your expenses to go up to the top under your assets, right? And that's just not the case. We're listing these by account classification, okay, in the order that they would appear in the general ledger, right? So that is really all I wanted to talk to you guys about as far as trial balances are concerned. As you can see, it's quick, it's dirty, it's pretty easy. They will become more complicated as we move on throughout the semester, but it's not that they're more complicated, it's just we're building on what we already know about trial balances, okay? So if anybody's got any questions, don't hesitate to contact me, email me. I am pretty willing to do whatever I can to make sure you guys are getting the help that you need. Right. So I know tutoring labs were closed all week because campus was closed. So I've done my best to make myself available to students for Zoom sessions and all that good stuff this weekend and all week. So if you do have questions, just shoot me an email. Please don't hesitate to do that. Like I told you guys, I really want to see you guys succeed in this class. I really want you guys to have an understanding of accounting when you leave this class. So part of that is you guys reaching out to me and asking for help when you need it. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow. Don't forget we have an exam tomorrow, so be prepared for that. I would recommend, like I said in the study guide, going back over your homework questions, going back over the quiz questions. Definitely do your practice exam. That's going to help you out a ton. Study your blue book. Commit to memory your fundamental accounting equation and the expanded version of that, but do more than commit it to memory. Actually understand why those things are happening, okay, and why we're expanding that equation. So again, any questions, just contact me. Thanks, guys.